she had called me like 15 times in a row. And I picked it up, and there was a different sound in her voice. I think every man's seen this look or heard that sound in someone's voice when they're done.
Yeah.
She wasn't calling to complain. She wasn't calling to tell me how awful I was. She wasn't calling to try to make sense of it. She was calling to say, I'm not tolerating this anymore.
Welcome to the Recovery Vow Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Kennedy. Today's episode is brought to you by City of Refuge, Augusta Magazine, Burrow Elijah, attorney-at-law, and a special thank you to all of our other supporters of the Recovery Vow Podcast. We're going to do a podcast today with Till the Wheels Fall Off, and I'm so grateful to have Matt and Paige come back because we've tried this before.
We did. Yeah.
We duct taped your phone to a whiteboard on the second floor here.
Yeah.
And we were going to do a legit podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Matt, you forgot to do something. What did you forget to do, Matt?
I didn't hit record. So we got all set up. I got the frame right. And then I stuck my phone on the whiteboard, taped it. And then when we were finished, I looked at it. I was like, I never hit record.
But we got audio.
We got audio, but we never got video, which is, we live in a video age. People want to see it.
Yeah.
So
it was all the reason for you guys to come back and hang out. So I can't thank you enough for coming, and making the trip on a weekday morning. So thank you guys for coming, Paige. Thank you so much for being
seriously. It's awesome.
So I'm gonna dive right in.
All right.
I found you guys. I want to say it was either TikTok or Instagram. I think it was TikTok because you had so many followers and you put out so much content when it came to somebody in recovery, male in recovery, but also the spouse. Paige has so much to say to the supporting spouse. And I think that's where a lot of the traction comes from too, is just your influence in recovery in the marriage, recovery and supporting your spouse. So, and being in recovery with your spouse. So why don't you walk us through your addiction? Like if you can condense your story in just a few minutes and just tell us, what was the trauma? What was you think that got you into the addiction and what the addiction was?
So it started with an injury. Like I was probably 11 or 12 years old and I broke my leg playing football and I was given prescription opioids. And from the moment I took those things, I fell in love. Like I felt like in that moment, this must be how everyone else feels all the time.
Yeah.
This is amazing. That same year I was going through a lot. Parents were having problems and I drank for the first time that year as well. But the feeling of those opioids stuck with me. I knew if I got the chance, I would pursue it again. And so that chance came when I was in high school. And then I learned if you mixed alcohol with the opioids, it was like chips and queso or chocolate and peanut butter. It's like one of life's great combos, right?
Yeah.
So I just ran with that. And I always assumed that there'd be something that occurred in my life that would make me stop. Like I thought there'd be some event that would happen and I would just grow out of it. I think you can probably relate to that.
Yeah. I think we talked about it last time. Like you feel like I'm supposed to do this and then I'll just won't do it at some point.
Yeah. Maybe I watched too many movies or something. And it's like, there's a character arc in the movies where the character discovers something like that. Then it gets to a point where they need to grow out of it and they do, and they go on to live a happy life. And these events in my life kept happening, like getting married, graduating from school, having kids, but I couldn't find a reason to stop. And then I realized that I couldn't stop. So then it got really bad. And something that's unique about our situation is that I was a closet addict, if you will. Yeah. She knew that I drank, but she didn't know about anything else. She knew I dabbled at times, but she didn't know how bad it really gotten, to the point where I was taking 50 to 60 opioids in a 24-hour period.
Pills?
Yeah, 50 to 60 a day. Like 24-hour period is what I was doing.
How do you mask that kind of intake?
It's a full-time job. And I think anyone's ever been deep in it kind of gets it.
Physically.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you kind of speedballed is what we like to say.
So I in college, I came across a very popular ADHD medication called Adderall. And I learned it was an upper. So I learned if you mix the two, you could have the effects of the opioid without nodding off and falling asleep and things like that. So I was taking those as well. So it was like pharmaceutical speedballing.
Wow.
So I would take the upper in the morning, and then when it got to feel too jittery, I would take the downers, and then I would take another upper and another downer.
And then you drink at night.
Drink at night to go to sleep, basically. So all day long. It was constantly consuming me.
And when you got hurt with the football injury, were you guys already dating?
No, this was about 2 years before.
Yeah, we've been together since we were 14. And so I was freshman year high school. We met freshman year high school. And I was in 7th or 8th grade whenever I broke the leg.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't too long after that incident that that we met, and then things kind of really got started. I think it really got bad when I was about 17.
Yeah.
It's junior year of high school, probably. Because I like to say it was 10 years of really bad active addiction. Those first few years leading up, it was like you're having fun with it. You're in high school. Everyone kind of plays around with, alcohol parties and things like that. And then it got bad for me probably about junior year of high school.
Did any of your friends have any idea what you were doing?
Not to the extent I was doing it.
Really?
No, I hid it really well because I got caught one time. She actually approached me with one of my friends and said, "Hey, we're worried about you." And I didn't think in that moment, this is how my addicty brain works. I didn't think in that moment, I need to stop. I thought to myself, I need to hide this better.
Right.
So I got really good at hiding it. And then you become like an actor. You become like this person that wears a mask all the time.
There's almost a high too of
getting away with
chase.
it.
Yeah, the getting away with it.
It was, I'm not sure if it felt, I know exactly what you're saying because I've talked to a lot of people that said like almost the act of it itself was like fun. But for me, it was exhausting. Like I thought that I functioned better with the substance. And so I was just trying to be normal, like how I thought everyone else must be. You know?
I think for me, when I think back now, I think part of me, I wasn't happy with myself. And so the act of getting away with something made me out to be like a different person, almost like not a superhero or like a alter ego or whatever, but kind of like that. Like, oh, I can actually be this other person if I fake so much, if I get away with so much. And so I think there was a high for me to get away with certain things.
Yeah.
Because I hid it as best I could, but not that well.
Not that well.
Not that well.
Yeah, it catches up with us eventually.
So when was it, you guys get together, you date, and then you get married. When was the point of no return where you and Paige said, okay, we're married, we've got to do XYZ to fix this or I'm out the door?
I think that the bones of that started long before. Paige has always been like my lighthouse in life. Like coming out of the womb, it's like she knew what she stood for. She knew what her values were. She knew right from wrong. She knew in which direction she was headed. And I was just along for the ride, but I admired her, and I always have. I've always admired her for her empathy, her understanding, her just being so concrete in who she is. And she always saw a path forward for us. And I was just kind of along for the ride, if that makes sense. And it all came to a head. It was April 12th, 2013. I was on a business trip to Las Vegas. At this point, I was starting to show signs that something was going on. Mm-hmm. And I think this is what's interesting, and she'll talk more about, it was the behaviors that I was showing. Because imagine that your loved one, you don't know that they're using. Let's just pretend that all you know is that they're acting erratic and they're treating you poorly. They're distant. They're not growing as a person. And that's what you see. That's what she saw. So for her, it was always like, our conversations weren't, if you drink again, I'm leaving. If you use another pill, I'm leaving. It was, if you treat me this way again, this is not going to work.
Get your stuff together. Grow up, basically.
What was it like? Just a lot of fighting? I mean, what were you kind of seeing, Paige?
I was detaching because he was gone all the time. I wanted a marriage where we were like together. He was going to be a parent. He would be there on Saturday mornings. We would enjoy like boringness, but also growing and living and doing things. But he was just gone all the time. He was lying. He was spending way too much money. That was really the biggest thing, is that he was spending money that we didn't have, and I didn't know where it was going. He was lying about it. So I focused on that because it affected me. It was affecting me. I didn't care like where he was spending it at that point. It was more of like, what you're doing is not what I want, and I need to survive. I need to protect myself. I need to protect my child. So I'm starting to detach at this point. I'm just kind of like, we would fight, but then there would be like love bombing, and then he would just go away all the time. But I got to where I would start living my own life with my daughter.
What's a love bomb?
Love bomb? Okay, that's whenever we would like fight, he would leave, and then he would come home hours later, like 4 hours later, with flowers in hand. And I'm so sorry. And I promised to be a better man. He always promised to be a better man. There's this toxic cycle that we go through when we're in these situations. It's the love bombing. It's the promises of being better. It's the like, I'm so sorry. This is not what we meant to be, but it always comes back up later. Like it's the toxicity.
Insanity.
Yeah, it's the insanity of it all.
Yeah.
And I meant it when I said I wanted to be a better man. I just couldn't stop. But all that came to a head. I had gone to Las Vegas for a business trip. Before we left, we had a conversation, like a financial meeting, if you will. It's like, you can't spend any money while you're out there. And I was trying to actively wean myself off of opiates at this point. So I took a supply with me that I felt was going to be adequate so I could detox away from home, because I couldn't do it at home. It was too painful. She would know something was up. And so I took enough with me to get me through 3 or 4 days till I could taper. But like any good addict, I took everyone the first night. I blacked out. I found myself with an ATM machine. I don't know what happened to the money, but I woke up the next morning and my phone was going crazy. She had called me like 15 times in a row. And I picked it up, and there was a different sound in her voice. I think every man's seen this look or heard that sound in someone's voice when they're done.
Yeah.
She wasn't calling to complain. She wasn't calling to tell me how awful I was. She wasn't calling to try to make sense of it. She was calling to say, I'm not tolerating this anymore. I'm not doing this with you anymore. And I knew it, man. I knew it. She didn't have to say it. I just knew it. I heard the sound, and I just knew in that moment that this was it. And then like I felt this thing that I'd never felt before, which was, why don't you take action and just be honest, just tell the truth. And in that moment I broke down. I told her, I've got a serious problem, and I don't know what to do about it. I'm addicted, like helplessly addicted, and I don't know what to do.
This is the first time you like had heard it, Paige?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
You had a...
Yeah. I didn't know that he was addicted to pills or whatnot. I could have been in a little bit of a denial phase because we minimize a lot of things in these situations. But when he told me that, I felt a little shocked, because I was like, were those people? Like, do you really need to go to rehab? Why do you just fix it? Deal with it. Like, why is this you don't have a problem. Just grow up, you know? But I was like, okay, let's figure it out. Let's just go through it and whatnot. And I didn't really feel sorry for you in that moment in a way, because I was just like he said.
I like how she just looked at you
I
and
was
just to
done.
reaffirm you of that conversation. I did not feel sorry for you.
I did not. No, because I needed him to grow up. And that was the first step. And I supported it, but it was difficult as a spouse.
For sure.
To hear that.
Yeah.
I want to ask, when you were planning your own detox, how many pills did you take to Vegas with you? Where were they at?
I took about 30 or 40 with me. And
you checked luggage, or you had it carry on?
I had it in my carry-on. Yeah, because you could usually get away with it in your carry-on, right? So I had taped stuff to my legs on times and flights.
That's why I was asking, like, where'd you put it?
Yeah,
I remember taking cocaine to Vegas with me one time, and like going into the little bathroom, and they had that little shelf by the sink, and I would chop out a line. All it took for us to get is just to get caught.
Yeah, that's it.
We'd have a different kind of story to tell. But I just wanted to ask, where did you put that many pills? Because if you were up to that many in a day.
So something else I would do is I would take like a bottle of vitamins, and I would clean out all the vitamins and just put pills in there. So if it went through the x-ray, they'd just be like, okay, they're not really going to check, right? Right. They're looking for bombs and knives and guns and stuff.
Take your opioids and get on the base.
Right, more or less. So yeah, I took them with me. What I thought was going to be an adequate supply, and it probably would have been. Yeah. So I could come home and not be really, really sick from withdrawal, but I had no control. I had no control over it. Once it got in my body, there was no stopping me.
Do you feel like the conversation with Paige while you were in Vegas, was that like getting close to rock bottom, or was that rock bottom?
That was rock bottom for me.
That was it.
Yeah, I think I always feel kind of like a fraud telling my story, because I don't have some like crazy rock bottom story that's really relatable for a lot of people. Like I've been in and out of the rooms of programs, and I've been to talk to many people who've been in recovery, and they've always got like, it's a cool story, you know, like it's something that anyone could hear and they would be like,
what's the cool story?
Oh yeah. Like I could see.
You were in Vegas, bro. That's pretty
true.
cool.
That's true. But it was more of an emotional rock bottom for me. It was like there was this dissonance between the man I wanted to be and the man that I currently was. And I couldn't live with that any longer. And then I think everyone gets to this point where the pain of staying the same and continuing on that path is greater than the pain associated with changing. And when we get to that place, that's what rock bottom looks like. And you don't have to go to the penitentiary to do that. Mm-hmm. You can do that still with the family, still with your job.
That's really important.
And everything else. Right, and it's important that people, I think, ought to know that is rock bottom is when you stop digging. It's not some magical place you get external. To. Yeah. It just suffering is generally what creates that moment. And
that's really good, Matt. That's really good. Like people need to hear that, because they think that they have to get so close to death or suicidal or in jail. Like you were married. Did you guys have one baby at the time?
Yeah, she was 9 months old.
9 months old. And so you recognized it and then started working on it.
Yeah.
We were 26 whenever he
we were
decided to
kids.
just like, we were young.
Yeah. No gray hair.
No gray hair yet. I still didn't have any gray in my beard. It was, I didn't have a receding hairline. It was great.
I've got one heck of a receding hairline. So talk to me, tell me what happened, or tell everybody that's listening, like what happened from the conversation in Vegas. Paige, how did you receive that when he told you, hey, I've got this problem?
Okay. I just decided like, all right, let's do this. Let's figure this out. I don't know how much I said within this conversation because it was kind of a blur type thing, but we ended up getting your mom involved somehow to get him to treatment. Because I could not deal with that in the moment. I was just like, I can't believe this is my life right now. I need to just kind of detach a little bit more, but also kind of get closer. So I ended up picking you up from the airport, and we had an amazing conversation where it was like, wow, like we're really going to get back to where we were before. It felt real and authentic, but I just don't.
But you didn't check out though. Like
I didn't.
Him confessing that changed the conversation from the message that you left.
It changed it because I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, why is this happening? But I still wanted to be there for him. But I also we had a daughter. I wanted to work on our marriage and see what would happen.
I know that our story is rare in the sense that like I'm one of those guys that got sober on the first try, like the first like real try. And I know that's not common, but I think it's possible for everyone, depending on the decisions that we make and the choices we make and the work that we're willing to do. But in that moment where I told her, like, I have a problem and I'm done, I can't do this anymore, she said something to the effect of, okay, so what are we going to do about this? And it was like, I knew that there was just enough patience left in her, but there wasn't much. Yeah. And I had one shot. Yeah. I had one shot and I took it.
And the fact that she used the word we, she was still a part of Team Matt at this point.
Yeah. She's always been willing to support me in my recovery, but never in my addiction. And I think that that's a powerful message that we've talked about on our show and in our content and everything else is I think it's unfair to ask a spouse to keep tolerating because it affects them and their lives and our children's lives and everyone else that we touch. There does come a point. I was just one of the lucky ones that there was still some patience left in her. And I can only attribute that to luck. That's just dumb luck.
No, I think you're right. It's luck. But I think you guys were you made a commitment to each other. You took the vow. You made a vow to each other, like in sickness and in health. This was in sickness part, and she stood by you. I think that you're very lucky. I'm one of the ones, after I went to treatment, I've done it once. I can't afford to do it twice. One, this expensive.
Right?
Yeah.
But, your marriage was saved. A lot of marriages won't make it, and that's that is what it is. But yours made it, and you had this 9-month-old baby at home. What did the first year in recovery look like when you got back to the house?
It was really rough. That first year is so rough. So much changes like in your life because I was figuring out who I was. I did everything. The only thing I've ever taken as prescribed in my entire life is the advice that I got on recovery. And that looked like going to like 90 meetings in 90 days. I attended an outpatient program. I read tons of books. I worked through the 12 steps. And
did you ever take a break during the 12 steps?
No.
You went right through them all?
Went right through it. And like, I didn't waste a day. I mean, every day was committed to my recovery. And so what that looks like in a marriage is lonely. It's very lonely.
It is. And that's, did Paige, did you play a part in any of that? Did you go to any meetings or any of the outpatient stuff?
No, yes, I did. I went to the outpatient stuff. I went to the family programs while he was in treatment. And part of it, I think, is that whenever he would go to his meetings, he would come home and we would discuss the meetings. We would discuss what he was learning. We would discuss what he was going through. And that was really important for both of us in our marriage. It wasn't just his recovery. It wasn't just for him. Like, we're married. This is our most intimate relationship. Let's have discussions about this. But that I didn't do my own recovery at that point. I was just kind of going with the flow, being a mom, and then listening to what he was going through. That was what was important for us at that moment. But the thing about this is that a lot of addicts are selfish. It's a very selfish thing.
We're taught to be.
Yes. And then in recovery, you're taught to be selfish. And that's very, very difficult for a spouse because this is our life too. It's a marriage. This is something that we want to be a part of together. And when you come into recovery that first year and you're just focusing on yourself, I understand the importance of it, but also get your partner involved and it helps it a little bit more. So we don't feel so left out. I felt left out. I felt a lot left out of like, whoa, he's changing. He's doing all these things that are incredible. And I'm stuck.
And outside of what you had offered to you through the outpatient stuff, there's really nothing for the spouse.
No, there was Al-Anon. I went to a couple meetings. It wasn't for me. It wasn't.
Yeah, I'm not beating it up.
No.
Those are just different.
They are. It's
it's been created since the 30s, right? And so,
right.
But it hadn't evolved at all.
No, it has not. And it rubbed me wrong a little bit. So I didn't end up working on myself until many years later in therapy. But there's not much out there for spouses. Yeah. It's like you're just supposed to, when they go to treatment, sometimes a lot of the family programs aren't even involved anymore. They don't even have them as much. Like your old treatment center, they got rid of their family program.
COVID changed the way we all lived for a while, but a lot of those programs didn't come back into treatment centers. Families are an afterthought. Spouses are an afterthought. It's all about how can we get this person well? Yeah. But I think that a lot of people are shocked to find out that just removing the substance doesn't fix all those problems. And emotions buried alive never die. So you can think that you got away with it that first year. It's like, oh, we're better. Look at us. We're living happily. You know, it's like, oh, we're fixed. We did it. Well, that stuff has to be dealt with. All that stuff has to be dealt with because you don't see what's going on underneath the surface, or you don't feel safe in your relationship, but you don't even know it yet. Yeah. That will come to light years after the fact.
Did any of it come up like when you were doing your step work? I'm thinking like step 4 or 9, where you had to make this searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself, and then a list of people you would make amends with. Did any of that help dig up conversation at all? Do you recall?
To some degree, but it's surface level, I think, because I didn't understand it either. Right. On the surface, I think you can only see what your perception of things, right? So I think what's kind of screwy about even some of those steps, I think they're valuable. They saved my life. Don't get me wrong, but we're apologizing. We're making amends for what we understand and what we know. And so, apologies have a few parts. It's like, what I did was wrong. I feel badly that I hurt you. What can I do to make that right? But in some sense, I'm the one that kind of dictates what those things are. And when I ask her at the end, is there anything I haven't done that I need to be aware of? Neither of us knew. Neither of us knew what gaslighting would do to somebody. Neither of us knew what emotional abuse, betrayal, and like what that really does to somebody.
That's real, dude.
So I've made amends many times over the years. The first time you do it is just the first time. It's very surface level. You're scratching the surface. It's valuable. Do it, but that's not the end. No. And so I did that work, sure, but I think it was just looking back on it now. It was very surface level because you're only talking about the high end stuff, like the stuff that you can really see at the top, and it's like, I knew I'd lied, right? But what does lying really mean? And what does that actually do to someone? That I didn't understand. I felt bad for lying and I meant it. I didn't want to be a liar. I did not want to be someone that she couldn't trust. But what had all that broken trust really done? I should have been saying, I'm sorry that I broke your sense of security in the world and the way that you perceive and trust people that will probably never come back. Yeah. That's what I should have said, but I just said, I'm sorry for lying, you know?
Just because we're told just make amends and leave it as it is.
Yeah. And that's why it has to be a continual process that you live your entire life. Yeah. And so we've had more than I can count, like sessions of me making amends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get it. Like I said, my first marriage didn't make it. There's reasons for that. But the gaslighting and the lies, I mean, I wasn't able to, she sees now like how different of a person I am, but I didn't have a chance to show that to her through a relationship. So in that, she probably still defines me somewhat of a good dad to our children, but then I never had an opportunity to fix that, which is okay.
Right.
But, through conversations, I think she's proud of me and the things I've accomplished since our divorce and all that. But it just goes back to what we're saying, like there was nothing for her. Yeah. She wasn't going to go to an Al-Anon meeting. Right. She didn't, she told me up front, I don't have a problem. You have the problem. And so it was work that I had to do. And anyway, so from the time that you got sober through that first year, I want to talk about till the wheels fall off. Like when you guys recognized, okay, there is something here that we need to be sharing. We need to take this major 12th step and just share it with the world. How did Till the Wheels Fall Off come up?
Till the Wheels Fall Off started as something that we would text each other. It was like a battle cry between us. And it was what we would say whenever things got difficult or whenever we were working really hard at something. It means that I will fight till the very bitter end. I will not stop fighting for us, for myself, for a goal I'm trying to achieve, whatever it might be. It's just a way of saying it's a rally call.
Yeah.
You know, it's something we would use to like motivate ourselves. And so I wanted to tell the story because I knew it could help some people. I also wanted to tell the story because I felt like it was important for us to kind of get it out, if that makes sense. It was like, I feel like something we kind of had to do. She didn't want to do it.
She didn't. She's great at it. Paige, like you're the superstar of Till the Wheels Fall Off.
She is. I know.
I do not see that, but thank you.
You are. I mean, I'm not trying to like, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Matt, but like you both are a great team, but the information that you give, like what was locked away in your head and how you're speaking to moms and wives and setting boundaries and not letting the selfishness roll over into just one person you're together. Like you do a great job of that. And I just want to say that.
Thank you.
I agree with that 1,000%. She's incredible.
Like
and I tell her this all the time. Like you're the star of the show. Like this is what people need to be hearing. This is what's going to help people. Like there are plenty of guys like me and you that have shows and we just talk about recovery.
Yeah.
No one asks a spouse how they're doing. Like whenever we get sober, everyone's, I'm so proud of you. How are you doing? No one's calling me. No one's calling that guy's wife and saying, how are you doing?
We got a front row seat to the show.
Yeah.
They were
Ask
affected.
me.
Yeah.
So we started the show and it was supposed to be a show just about personal development because there's so many lessons that you can learn in working through tough times. Like it's when like good times are a poor predictor of how you're going to handle bad times. It's through the bad times that you really learn the most about each other in a relationship and in a marriage. And we'd been through a lot of bad times and we had learned lessons that we felt like others just didn't quite understand. I think that you can identify. It's like they're struggling with something that we know the answer to. Maybe we should just start a show and talk about it. And whoever wants to hear it can hear it. We thought our friends and family might listen, maybe. And then I think it was like our 4th or 5th episode, we talked about addiction and what that had done to our lives. I told my story. And it got a decent response, but then she told her story. And it was like, all of a sudden we felt in that moment, it's like, and then we realized like no one's talking about what spouses go through. And so Paige took the helm and became like the voice for millions of people.
Yeah. I mean, because I wrote down like you guys, you're on TikTok, you have over 55,000 followers on TikTok alone. And if you add all the other social medias, I mean, you're probably close to 100,000 followers and you get thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah.
So the information you're putting out, people are after it. And I think it's super important that you guys keep doing that. Where do you see Till the Wheels Fall Off going? Like what's next for the ministry, or not the ministry, but this what you're doing? How are you going to reach families too, you think?
I think that
because you guys have 2 kids. Right?
Yeah, we have 2 kids. And so I'm a child of people that struggled with substances. And so I can see things from that perspective. My children have never seen me drink, thank God. My daughter was 9 months old when I got sober. And I know that they've dealt with some of the fallout of the behaviors that come with me, being that type, that man, that person. So we haven't touched on families too much. We're going to get to that point. We didn't expect this to do what it did, if I'm being honest. Like I thought it would be more for us that we like put this out there for posterity, for our kids. They would be able to hear mom and dad one day talk about things they learned. We didn't think that we would become a voice for spouses. I know, Paige, you didn't.
No. Sometimes it's hard to go back in time, you know, especially when a lot of the abuse and trauma came from my husband, my partner. You know, that's difficult to go through. Like y'all can talk about it all day long, your experiences and things, but the people that it's done to, sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult.
I bet so. Because you didn't have a good time in that.
No.
You didn't have a good time in that.
It wasn't fun at all. Not for
no,
one
y'all
moment.
had a blast. You had a blast.
We had a good time in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are still working like full-time jobs. Like she is still incredibly involved with our children. I'm involved with our children, but I work a full-time job outside of this. She works full-time until the wheels fall off. And we've also got Independently Strong, our online courses for spouses and partners. And we're going to continue with that. I think that like pipe dream though, like one day down the road, I would love to be able to do this full time. We're out there helping people. Like our goal, I think in the beginning, if you had to ask me, like, what's the goal? And even her, it's like, we would like to save marriages. That would be great if we could do that. But now it's transitioned where we want to save at least one person's life. Like we ultimately learn the lesson of recovery when we're ready to hear it, when time plus pain equals change, and when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain associated with change. But I'm not going to request that spouses volunteer for that into perpetuity forever. Yeah. So if we can save one life, that's what we're out to do. We are advocates for spouses and partners. I am absolutely an advocate for people of recovery, for people who struggle with addiction to get better too, but we are really for spouses and partners. If we could save a marriage, beautiful. And we've heard from people we've done that for, and that's amazing. Yeah. And I would like to do more of this. So we've workshops, courses, books, every bit of it.
How can they find you guys? Like if they want to take some of your courses?
Our website, twfo.com, tufo.com, is where you can find out the most information about us. So if you ever wanted to schedule a session with one of us, you can do it there. We've got book recommendations. We'll have our own book before long, working on that. We've got an online course called Independently Strong that we built with a licensed therapist, Dr. Christopher Taylor. And so it's got our perspective as a couple that's gone through this. And it's also got the clinical expertise of someone who's worked through trauma therapy with people. And so it's research informed, research backed. And it's robust, and it's like if we had to package our lives, that's what it would look like. And its goal isn't to get people to go or to stay in a marriage. Our goal is to empower people to make choices from a place of confidence and not fear. And that looks like whatever you want it to look like. Listen, if you're not done yet in your marriage, that's okay. I'm not going to tell you to get out unless I see physical abuse, even though emotional abuse can be just as bad or worse sometimes. Right. Like unless there's something glaring, like it's not my place to tell you what to do. And the fact of the matter is that just like with us, like people told you to stop. How well did that work? It doesn't work until you see it for yourself.
I told myself,
which you have to get to a certain place to do that. We try to get people to that place where they can make that decision. Where you can set boundaries and encourage someone to work a program of recovery, encourage them to do so. Or if it's just not working out, then okay, like we're going to love you either way.
Because I think I saw it on one of your episodes. You don't have to wait until you hit rock bottom. No. You know, and you may have said that earlier. You just don't have to wait. Some people think that you got to hurry up and get to rock bottom and then start digging your way out.
You don't. You can stop right now. Mm-hmm. Just most people are unwilling to do it because it feels like you've still got a good run left in you, or you're still going to be able to figure out how to manage it, whatever that looks like. And I think that goes for the marriage from a spouse's perspective, and from like guys like us, our perspective, is you don't have to wait till they put their hands on you to say, I'm not doing this. This is not what I stand for. I'm not going to expose my children to it. You don't have to wait for that moment. You don't have to wait for the moment where you find someone OD'd on the floor before you're willing to say, these are my boundaries and I'm not going to deal with it. You know, spouses go through so much, and it's incredibly unfair, I think, what they're asked to do, because they're asked to suffer while we're in active addiction. They're asked to suffer and stand alone while we're active recovery. And then they're told to sit by the sidelines while we tell our stories and get ticker tape parades, and they get no recognition.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, here's a chip. Here's a chip. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. And you both should be getting a chip.
Right.
Yes.
You both should be marking those milestones together.
100%. And like I credit a lot of my recovery to her. And it wasn't because she was so kind to me. It was because she was firm in what she believed in. And she said, I'm walking that direction, and you can get in line or you can do what you want, but I'm going that direction. She didn't even threaten it. I just knew she was going to keep walking. And that was so inspiring to me.
Yeah, and that didn't come from probably a place of meanness. It's like it comes from a place of, this is how I'm protecting my family at this point.
Exactly. Yeah, it was self-preservation.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want it to be all about him. Like it had to be about me and my daughter too.
Yeah. Now, how old are your kids now?
12 and 10.
And you've got how long in sobriety?
I'll have 12 years in April. It's a couple months from now, I'll have 12 years.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome. Well, I can't think of a better reason to say thank you than screwing up the first episode that we did. So thank you for screwing up the first episode so you can come back and do this one.
Thank you for having us back, man.
Seriously.
It was funny that it ended that way, but
I think it was just exactly what it was supposed to.
I agree.
I believe in that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
Everything that was supposed to happen happened exactly the way it was supposed to.
And then you pivot.
Yeah.
You learn from it.
Yeah.
That's like my big word lately is pivot.
Yeah.
So if people want to contact you, they can go to the website.
Yeah, they go to the website.
But if it's a spouse that specifically wants to speak to Paige, or if it's the husband that specifically wants to speak to you, do you guys have a direct email or anything?
Yeah, so you can email us at info@twfocouple.com. And you can go to our website and you could book sessions with us. There's a contact us button on there as well. You could just shoot us a message and we'll get it. And I want to just say something. You'd ask like what's in the future for us.
Yeah.
I don't think that either one of us want to sit here and talk about addiction for the next 20 years if this is what we end up doing in life. I think that addiction is just what gets people to the door of what is a beautiful life of growth in general. And I think that you and I could sit and talk about the lessons that we've learned about life and about ourselves and about being a better husband and father. And we don't have to mention addiction, because addiction is what just drives you to get to that place where growth is. It's growth-centered.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I hate talking about addiction. I hate talking about my addiction, my past. I like talking about from the moment I got into treatment and what recovery's been like.
Right.
Because that's where all the great happened. I watched an episode one time with Steve-O from Jackass, and he was laid back on this podcast, and he was like, "Addiction is the only disease that you can treat, and your life gets better. Not only your health, but your health and your life gets better."
Yeah.
And if that idiot can say it and see that,
For real.
Seriously.
he's exactly right though.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right.
So, I mean, I don't know what is in store for how we reach people in the future, but I think showing them what life is like from a not an ordinary, you guys are extraordinary, but an extraordinary couple. Because some people just think that they just have to be the lowest of the low or be ashamed of their anonymity.
Right.
I hate that too. Like, I break it wide open.
Yeah.
Man, when we recover, we should be recovering out loud.
Yeah.
Recover out loud. And I think that it's scary to do, but if you're going to live authentically, which is the purpose of recovery, that has to come with it. I've remember day one, you have that decision to make. It's like, are we going to hide this from people? Or we're just going to be open and honest about who we are. And the decision was really easy for both of us. It's like, this is who we are. We don't have anything to be ashamed of. It's what you do with that. It's what we call like the alchemy of recovery. Like, you can take something terrible and make something beautiful of it. And I know for like spouses, that's tough to see right now. And I know, Paige, it's been tough. It's like, how can I make sense of the way that you treated me, the way you talked to me, the way that you left me abandoned and feeling alone? You can learn so much about yourself, and that you can control so much about your inner world that the external environment doesn't matter as much. Now, that's to an extent, right? Like, you can't live in a very, very sick environment forever and be okay in it, but you'll be shocked at the power that you have within yourself and what you can actually affect in your environment when you start to change inside. It's like when you start to see the world differently, everything outside changes too. And we've seen people come to us lost, broken, not sure what to do, spouses and partners, and have made incredible, beautiful lives for themselves in and outside of their marriage.
So if people connect with you guys, how much time are you spending with them through these classes and through this one-on-one? Like, do y'all have like a program that they're able to walk through with you? So
if you take the course, it's 10 modules, which should really take you about 10 weeks to finish if you're diligent about it. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And you get weekly meetings with either me and Paige or just Paige, where you're working through this stuff. And it's like, it's group. It's not one-on-one, it's group. And then you can book one-on-one sessions as well to really become empowered. But that journey takes time. Like, I think, what would you say, Paige? Like 6 to 12 months for people to really start to make differences.
Yeah.
So we have a process we call VEER. In the beginning, we're going to validate you. Just going to let you know it's okay to feel the way you're feeling, that it's all right. And then we're going to educate you and teach you about addiction. We're going to teach you about yourself. We're going to teach you about a path forward. And then we're going to empower you. This is the big part. This is where you start to feel like you again. And then we help people recover. At the end of it, it's about maintenance, just like a 12 step, right? It's recovery. Yeah. So we use that process, and it takes time because it's a transformational process of like the soul. This is people changing the way they see the world, and they're breaking habits they've likely had their entire life, whether that's people pleasing and codependency.
They utilize the tools within every areas of their lives,
right?
Like at work, with their friends, strangers.
And that's when it becomes beautiful.
Yeah.
It's when you see people's lives improve, not just
about the spouse of an addict or.
We like to say that we get you to us by telling the story about addiction, but you're going to leave just an amazing, well-rounded human. You know, like addiction's what got you here, but the work that you're going to do is going to benefit every aspect of your life on the outside.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for
But
having us.
before we go, I wrote down some rapid fire questions I want to ask each one of you.
These are fun.
Aren't they? Because you're not going to be prepared. So I've got 6 of them. I'm going to ask Paige 3, and I'm going to ask you 3. That
Right
way
on.
you don't get an opportunity to hear what her answers are and steal
Okay.
them. All right. So Matt, I'm going to give you the first 3. Person you would trade places with for one day,
A person I would trade places with for one day.
dead or alive, but you could trade places with them for one day,
Oh my gosh.
right?
You know what? And this isn't just to sound corny. I think it would be my wife. I would trade places with her. I think I could really understand my place in things and what I could do better
Would
to
be
make
a
both of our
moment
lives
like
better.
Paige today or Paige at a certain point in
I
time?
don't think I'd want to trade places with her 12 years ago.
No, I doubt it. But that's what I was asking.
I think today and the now.
Okay.
You know, I think it'd be my spouse. Yeah,
Guilty pleasure.
my guilty pleasure.
Because you're like a health buff, right?
kind of nicotine gum is my thing. Nicotine gum and coffee. So
Okay.
I don't drink, don't smoke, any of that stuff. I work out. I don't take any mood or mind altering substances except for nicotine gum. I chew
Caffeine too, yeah.
Nicorette and I drink caffeine.
You were a smoker?
I used to smoke whenever I would smoke Newports whenever I was on something.
Me too.
Why is it always Newports?
I don't know.
They're so great whenever it's, you know?
Yes.
I wrote a poem in high school about Newports for an
Oh
English
my
class.
gosh, that is great.
You gotta read that thing, man.
I've got to find it, but it was about
Let's go to a
Newport.
coffee shop and hit like a poetry slam hour.
Best compliment you've ever gotten?
The best compliment I've ever gotten. I'm the worst at taking compliments. I don't believe anything anyone says, so it's really tough for me to take compliments. I think the best compliment I can ever receive is when someone else is living well based on spending time with me.
That's perfect.
You know what I mean? Like if I've been able to help someone in some way and they're able to take that in their life and help other people or make their lives or their spouses or their children better, like that is the most fulfilling thing in the entire world.
That's great.
Nothing like, oh, you're so no, I don't listen to any of that stuff.
But you are.
I don't even care. Like,
Right?
I
You're a
don't,
handsome man.
You are. You're a
I
good-looking
don't take
dude.
compliments well at all. Like I'm working
We're
on
working
that.
on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody told me I had the perfect face for radio one time. All right. Paige, are you ready?
Yeah.
Here you go. You're 3. Worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
You could answer that for me, couldn't you?
I don't know if I could.
Because
or
I could
not.
have answered all of your questions. I don't know.
All right.
No, there is something.
You do know.
At the top of your mind, there's
No, I'm
something.
trying to think
You just
that-
have to
Worst
say it.
piece. Like somebody said,
What's something that makes you cringe every time you see someone else give that advice?
ooh, that's a good way to put it.
Put it that way. It's usually the thing that we hate the most.
Well, it's actually some advice that I've given before.
That
So-
makes it hilarious.
So then I'm like, well, dang. It's like, I guess, just be patient through everything.
Yeah.
Like, be patient. Like, I've said that before. Be patient. Be patient.
That's conditional though. Patient when someone's working their butt off.
Right. But like, some people take that wrong, and I just don't like. I need to let me process this myself and figure out if I want patience or not within
Right.
this situation.
That's right. Something you wish you were better at?
Speaking.
Isn't that funny for a podcaster?
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I was better at speaking.
Like on a public,
Yes.
on a stage?
Yeah. Hmm.
What will always make you smile?
Oh man, I smile at a lot of things. Simple things.
Turtles.
Turtles do make me smile. Oh, I love turtles. Turtles are awesome. I have a
Okay.
turtle.
What's his name?
Sheldon. I know,
Sheldon.
isn't that unique?
Yeah, she loved that's one of my favorite things about her is like her actual authentic pure joy in some of the simplest things in life. Like
Yeah.
she likes turtles, like loves them. It gets pumped every time she sees one, and it makes me laugh to no end because it reminds me not to take life so seriously.
I am like
know?
a child
I
in
love
some
it.
aspects.
It's like it reminds
Like the
me. It's
smallest
like,
Patient
thing.
like Sheldon.
yeah. It's like just let go,
Yeah.
man. Like it's
Start
not
bringing your
not that
turtle
deep.
to some of your online classes.
Oh, we could put him in the podcast.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he'd love that.
Yeah.
Chill there on the desk with us. That'd be greatness, man. That'd be great.
Well, before you guys go, I'd like to give you a copy of the book that I wrote. I kind of told you about it before. everything that we talked about is in that book, from being selfish, that's chapter 3, and how to find balance in that. I'm trying to think of just some things we just talked about. Marking milestones together, playground playmates, play habits, all of it's in there, and it's written as a workbook. So I'd be truly honored if you guys took it and just kind of read over it together. It's got questions at the end of each chapter for the spouse or the person in recovery to answer, and then the person that's the supporting spouse to answer. And it's written to be, male or female, vice versa.
I'm so proud of you for getting this thing done.
Yeah,
we've
that's
talked about it.
amazing.
I think it's amazing, dude. I'm so proud of you. I hope one day to follow in your footsteps, and we'd be honored to check it out.
Yeah, I'd
Truly.
love, and maybe there's a couple that comes through your program that you say, hey, maybe just read through this. And this isn't a sales pitch. It's not that. It's give them a gift from me.
It's a
Right,
tool.
yeah,
it's
it's
a
a
tool.
tool.
It's a useful
tool
Absolutely.
to help
Yeah.
you. Yeah, we're all
all the
about that.
tools.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys coming back to South Lake to be on this podcast, and I'm
course.
so excited for what God's got in store for you.
Thank you so much for having
Honor
us.
to be here with you again,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah.
Next time, Paige, I'll make sure we unscrew one of these so you can hold it.
Okay, thank
'Cause I know
you.
that's not your jam where you get to talking to
That's
them.
our host.
It's like my support microphone.
Or bring Sheldon.
Yes,
Bring
there we
Sheldon.
go. There we go.
All right. You guys did great. Thanks for coming on the Recovery Vow Podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Recovery Vow Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow along on all of our social media platforms. A huge shout out to all of our sponsors. You can find a list of them in the show notes below or on the screen you're watching on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week. Today's episode is brought to you by Communigraphics, The Nonprofit Desk, Corbin Jones State Farm, Paradise Turf, Sally Kohler Photography, Atlas Health and Wellness, Dr. Rhonda Milner, Kendra Neal Studio, Augusta Dream Center, Newsom Electric, New Spring Church, Augusta Lawn and Turf, Candace Riddle Realty, Gold Neck, Norval Fixture and Equipment, S&S Supplies, Belinda Thompson, Rhett Walker, Carpet Cleaning Pros of Augusta, Coleman Construction, Bagwell Insurance, Tree Guys with Ties, Barrow Walden, Kendrick Paint and Body, Roof Savers, Game Changers. And a special thank you to all of our other supporters of the Recovery Vow Podcast.